folks? I hope you're doing well, and welcome to episode 13 of WAPTSS, aka We All Practice the Same Stuff. If you're not familiar, WAPTSS is a series where every other week I'll be bringing us all an exercise or routine for us to practice together. And if you want more information about the series, I'd highly recommend checking out episode 1. When you think about famous duos, there's obviously some that stick out, like PB&J, Batman and Robin, Ross and Rachel, and of course, pointer and middle finger. For any fingerstyle guitarists, these are probably the two that you start practicing the most with, especially when you're trying to learn some faster passages. And in fact, they're so useful, I might even say I love them. So I hear you saying, "If you love them, Josh, why don't you marry them?" And to that I say, okay. Who said that? Thumb? Well, what a shocking twist ending that was. But yeah, as common as pointer and middle finger are together, there's actually a lot of situations where I've found that pointer and thumb are even more useful. So today's WAPTSS is not really going to be a specific exercise necessarily, but rather some maybe thought technique. So when you're practicing a piece or maybe learning a new one, you can think about what fingerings you use, and maybe pointer thumb could be more useful than pointer middle. But of course for practice, you can just practice making sure that your thumb and pointer are even sounding. Okay, so two places that I've found that they've been pretty useful so far. One, if you're doing some kind of scale that's going up and down the strings, instead of moving your pointer and middle finger all the way up and all the way down, maybe you could use your 3 fingers for the bottom strings and then your thumb and pointer for the top strings. So as an example, in one of my most recent arrangements, Medieval, I've got a fairly fast scale-ish pattern that starts on the high E and makes its way all the way down to the low E, and about halfway through I transfer from using these 3 fingers to just using my pointer and thumb. Right there. So here I've run out of room for these ones, so I'm just going to use my thumb and pointer. The next part, which I think is an even more common, more useful reason for this technique, is if you've got maybe a lot of fast notes on one of the bass strings. So some people might be tempted to just try and play it really fast with their thumb, but that can be difficult, sometimes impossible at certain speeds, and will sound a little bit choppy. So instead of just playing thumb, 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 you can toss in your pointer finger there. Again, as another recent example, in my most recent arrangement, the Super Smash Bros. Melee opening theme, there's a part that sounds like this. And then right here, I've got 3 notes on the A string. So before I was just trying to play with my thumb there, but then I figured out, well, I can just replace that middle thumb stroke with a pointer finger and it becomes much simpler to play. So that's just 2 examples of places where I found that the thumb and the pointer can be very useful, especially more useful than using your pointer and middle. As far as practicing this, it's as easy as just taking any scale and alternating between your thumb and your pointer. It can be a little bit strange to get used to, but it's actually a pretty natural movement, so once you do it a few times, you'll get the hang of it. That's going to do it for this week's WAPTSS, everybody. I appreciate you guys watching. It's interesting to see what this series has become for me, because originally I thought it was just going to be some specific exercises that I introduced to everybody and we'd all practice it together. But as I do more and more arranging and more practicing, there's just techniques and hints and tips that I'm finding as I come across that I use a lot. And this series is such a great way for me to get those out to you guys. If you're following along with the series and haven't already, then I'd highly recommend, number 1, hitting that subscribe button, and number 2, joining the Discord below. Folks, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and happy practicing.